Out on YouTube, Facebook, and X. And for the premier sports talk experience, tap into our Roku channel. Start your mornings with Mac and Jack covering all the weekend sports action. Then pour a cup and enjoy all the sports you can drink on the Coffee and Sports podcast. At midday, talk sports from east to west on the Coast to Coast podcast. Followed at night by some hot girl talk with Prim and Proper Sports featuring Sonia Pearson. Talk boxing on the Gloved Fist. Yankee fans tune in for Start Spreading the News. And there's more on the College Sports Huddle and Sports Scope with Robert Butler. And that's just a sampling. There are 20 podcasts in all and 70 weekly shows giving us a 3.4-star viewer rating. To find us on Roku TV, search for National Streaming Sports on the Roku search bar. Click on the logo and you're in. For laptops, mobile phones, and tablets, download the Roku app. National Streaming Sports, live and on-demand sports talk.
Football season is here, and SeatGeek is my go-to for buying tickets. Now, with SeatGeek, every single ticket is backed with their buyer guarantee. We've all had plans change, and when you can't make it to the big game, SeatGeek has you covered. They're the only ticketer that allows you to return your tickets ahead of the event for credit with SeatGeek swaps. So when things come up, I know that my tickets won't go to waste. So what are you waiting for? Download the SeatGeek app to maximize your possibilities and shop live.
The Big Football Show, every Sunday at 8 a.m. on Roku at 4 p.m. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Big Football Show, where you can get all your football news first and the best. Sonia Pearson and Jack Hirsch will be in at 8:30, but we got our weekly college football guru here. And, of course, we'll talk a little bit about the games, too. So let's bring on TGI Sports Talk, the Reverend himself, Keith Angle. Keith, how you doing today?
Good morning, gents. How are you?
Good morning. Good morning. And we're going to get to the NFL games, of course. But first, let's talk a little bit about the national championship, right? So we got Notre Dame coming up Monday playing against Ohio State. Ohio State hasn't won a big one in a while. The Notre Dame, of course, hasn't won a big one in decades. And maybe really the only shot Notre Dame has in winning, because Ohio State has flaws, as Notre Dame does. They both got real good defenses, that's for sure. Running games are pretty equal. Notre Dame's got a little edge in the turnovers, though, Keith. They have a little edge in scoring off turnovers. I know Notre Dame's your team going in, but what would Ohio State have to do to beat Notre Dame?
They need to play exactly like they played against Tennessee and Texas and Oregon, actually. Maybe even more Oregon and Texas, because they played perfectly. They got out of the gate quick. Notre Dame's not built to play from behind. They can play in a close football game and behind a field goal or touchdown. But if this team falls behind by a couple of touchdowns early, it's going to be very hard for them to get back in this game, unless it's off turnovers, as you mentioned, or special teams. I laugh at sorry, Jack, I don't mean any disrespect when I laugh at the jokes at your expense. I mean, again, on paper, Ohio State's a better football team. Very interesting side note here. Will Howard and Riley Leonard were the two guys that Notre Dame was trying to decide on to bring in here for this season with NIL money, and they chose, I think both teams, it worked out for both teams. Ohio State's much more talented. They got wide receivers coming out, whatever you want them to come out of. They just replace them right and left. Will Howard's been a little up and down. If Will Howard plays, he's played his last 2 games probably of the year against Tennessee and Oregon. Little less consistent against Texas, but Notre Dame needs everything to go right. They can't turn the ball over. They got to force some turnovers and probably make a big play on special teams, because that's another place that they are better than Ohio State. And they've been very opportunistic this year. They go for it on 4th down as much as anybody in football. They fake punts. They fake field goals. You just don't know what to expect. And that is a big advantage when you don't know what a team might do. It's going to be a fun game. I don't think this will be a blowout on either side. Notre Dame will have to win a very close game.
I agree. Jack was playing darts last night. That's how he picks his games now. Yeah, well, that's how he picks his games now. He puts the teams on the dartboard and he just throws darts at them now, because that's about where his picks are now. Anyway.
Goalie. Don't be the goalie on the dart team. I'll give that.
No, that's one thing you shouldn't do. Keith, are these really the 2 best teams in the country?
It's probably not. I mean, I think Oregon had 1 bad game and they paid for it, right? Oregon's one. I think Oregon, you can make an argument, Oregon's one of the top 2 teams in the country still, but they lost a game when you can't lose it. They're the best 2 teams in the country right today, but if you take the season as a whole, are they the best 2 teams in the country? Possibly not. It's very subjective anyway. That's why we have a playoff, because for decades it was very subjective and we picked the best team based off of writers voting and coaches voting. And that's not a good system either. So at the end, if you win the last game, you're the best team. That's the way the system's built. And I think that's the way personally, I'd probably be okay going back to the writers voting, I guess, but in some ways, just because of some of the nonsense that goes on with the playoff. But there's some changes that need to be made. They need to fix the seeding and ranking thing. There's no way Ohio State should be playing Oregon in the quarterfinals, and Penn State should get Boise. That shouldn't be happening. So they can tweak that and fix this. The problem is, even the tournament itself, the playoff itself is not designed to get the best 12 teams in the playoff. If it was, you'd only take the best highest 12 ranked teams. You wouldn't worry about conference winners and everything else, but that's not what it's designed to do. So already there, you've got a little bit of a flaw if that's what you're looking for. But I want conference winners to be rewarded. I mean, I don't want to just take away all of that. And I want to include more of the group of 5 schools, to be honest with you. I would like to see them included more and give them a chance. But
so you say,
bottom of
which, Keith, you're going to hear pushback from SEC because of all the cannibalism that goes on there. I mean, some of the greater teams that probably sitting, and Alabama fans in particular, which I can care less. I hate Alabama.
Yeah, not going to, James. We already have. I mean, they're already screaming that they want guaranteed 4 teams in a piece in a 12-team playoff. That's just ridiculous, right?
Yes. And Rich, we will get into the NFL. I just want to get this college stuff out of the way here. Not that I mean get out of the way, but it's very, very, very good stuff here. There's kind of complaint. I don't know if you want to call it complaining, Keith, but this. These playoffs started before New Year's. I mean, it's taken a long time to get here. Is there a way that they can kind of speed this up a little bit, play more games during the week or on the weekends to speed it up a little bit?
I don't think play more games in a shorter period of time, because that's not fair to the teams, and it's not, we're always worried about player health. That's not a good idea. But you could start a week earlier, right? Week 0 now is in August, but there's only a handful of games played. You could move the season up a week, and you could do away with that gap between the conference championship games and when the playoffs starts. You can eliminate 2 weeks right there. Problem with moving up the championship games is Army Navy's always had their standalone game, and that's going to be difficult if you do move everything up. But maybe you could do it. You could play them on a Friday night or something and still give them their lone stage. That game itself is going to become a problem because they play in the same conference now. They didn't play in league this year, so they could leave the game when it was. after the conference championship game. I don't know how they do it when they're scheduled to play during the season. I don't know how Army-Navy can be a standalone game anyway. So there's ways to do it. Again, you cut 2 weeks out, and now you're what? January, I can't do math, 3rd or 5th, right? I mean, that's not bad. The season historically ended on January 1st in years past, but it's been a while since that's happened. January 20th is too long. I agree 100%.
Yeah. The conference championships, Keith. Should they just do away with that? I mean, if you got a team that's in first place, and they've been in first place all year, and they get a little bump in the conference championship. Say the team beats them by whatever, 3 points or a touchdown or whatever. It's still kind of, like the NFL, right? That happens. You get beat during the season, but whoever has the best record by the end of the year is the one that moves on.
I would be in favor of doing away with the conference championship games. Right now, the way the system's built, there can actually be a deterrent to even getting in the conference championship game. If you lose and you're kind of on the bubble, you can hurt yourself seeding wise for sure. So I think the regular season champion should be rewarded a bit more.
Yes. Carlos says college testing for students happen. They just can't make up schedules.
I have no idea what that means.
Me either, and to me, these guys that are playing in these bowl games or in these championships, they'll figure a way to make sure that they get their testing.
If you're about just they have to be in school to test. I mean, this goes on all year, all season long. This isn't just happening, so we can get rid of that.
Well, since Sonia and Jack aren't here, me and James, and of course Keith, I know Keith's taking Notre Dame to win this game. James, who do you got?
Look, I have no dog in this fight, and I think it's going to be a tough game for both teams. But I think just the way Ohio State is, just the talent, I have to say I had to give them the favor because of the talent level there. But I wouldn't be mad either way if Notre Dame pulls an upset. I think it'd be an upset here. Because of the talent level, but looks like Notre Dame's been the underdog all year, man, and they just they just telling you, hey, we're here for real, and they got a good coach, and I think that coach is going to stay there.
He just signed a 5-year extension. I doubt.
Yeah, exactly. So their program is looking like it's going to be, really good, and recruiting is going to be good for them as well. But I just think it might be tough for them in this game to win.
Okay,
offensively, they got a good defense. I think Notre Dame has a really good defense, and Ohio State has a really good offense. It's going to be a really good matchup. Somebody's got to break, though.
I would again. I've got my own reason. I do like Notre Dame in this game. I've obviously got a lot of other reasons that I can't go the other way. But they need to play a perfect game for sure. Who do you like, Mac?
Yeah. Notre Dame was ranked 7, is still ranked 7. If you look at the rank, Ohio State is ranked 8, believe it or not. So Notre Dame is ranked ahead of Ohio State. I'm a huge Irish fan, but if I had to bet money on this, I'd probably take Ohio State. I just think Ohio State's a better overall team. Notre Dame is going to need, as you said, they're going to need turnovers. They're going to need a couple big plays maybe on special teams to win this game. If they don't, I think Ohio State wins. But, I don't disagree. I would love Notre Dame to win. Trust me.
Two quick things before you move on. This is really good for college football, by the way. When Notre Dame is good and relevant, it's better for college football. It's that way in every sport with certain teams. And I think from the coaching perspectives, Ryan Day's got much more to lose Monday night than Marcus Freeman has to lose. Marcus Freeman's already a winner. He got him into the national championship game. He's not going to feel any heat for losing it. Ryan Day is going to feel some heat if he loses this game because of Michigan.
You think Ryan Day will get fired if he loses?
No, but I think the heat will be turned up even higher for the future. We talked about Marcus Freeman in the NFL. He has not interviewed with anybody. He hasn't done anything. He's just been chatter. I will tell you, Ryan Day is much more likely to be in the NFL long before Marcus Freeman ever is.
Interesting. I agree with you. Go ahead.
Notre Dame is like the Dallas Cowboys of college football.
Mm-hmm.
They were the ones on NBC on TV, that back in the day. And so they're like America's team of college football. And so they had relevance just like the Cowboys, but they lost a lot of that relevance for years because they hadn't won a championship in a long time. But they're here now.
37 years and more than a generation. They haven't won a championship. That's crazy.
Yeah.
And listen, Notre Dame's always been huge, popular. They had the, I forget exactly the term they used. I think it was Subway Irish fans or something. Everybody followed Notre Dame, as James said. They were always on TV or the radio. Yeah. The Four Horsemen, Newt Rockne. I mean, you can go all the way back. And they've always, They are one of the most popular teams still today. Michigan was another one. Michigan was huge too at one time. Those were probably the two teams that everybody kind of watched. But, the SEC has kind of changed that, even though Michigan is in the SEC, I guess, now.
Right. It was really Notre Dame, Army, Navy. These were the teams that in the back in the day that built the popularity of college football, turning it from a regional sport, which it still kind of should be, despite we don't pay attention to regions in any conferences or anything. It's still a regional sport with national appeal, and that's because of Notre Dame, Army, Navy, and schools like that. And that changed with the conferences getting so strong through the decades.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. So I would bet Ohio State, but I am definitely rooting for Notre Dame. I'm not going to be like Frank Laterzo and bet $1,000 on Ohio State to win, and because I think Notre Dame will. I'm not doing that. I'm not doing.
I hope Frank loses a fortune this week, just getting Ohio State to lose. That's the most interesting strategy ever, Frank. I gotta tell you.
Frank is crazy. So let's start getting to the game a little bit. And the game I want to talk about first is and Keith, I'm with you. I don't like blaming officials for losing games and that. But this has gone too far to me with the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, when you're calling roughing the passer when he didn't even get hit, and he's a running back, so you can't slide at the last second. You can't keep running around with the ball, hiding behind blockers, and as a running back and expect nobody to hit you. I don't get, with this one referee. Patrick, the Chiefs are 7-0, and it's every week, and it's starting to wear on me, and maybe there's something to this.
I don't think there's anything to it. There's a difference between bad refereeing, and those calls are both horrendous calls. I bet the Chiefs yesterday. I will tell you they're both horrendous calls. Troy Aikman went off on him, and he's absolutely right. It's not just Mahomes, by the way. These calls are happening on other quarterbacks all around the league, but it's magnified because of who the Chiefs are and the games that they're playing in, which I agree. But that is not the reason the Texans lost yesterday. The referees didn't miss 3 field goals. They didn't get their quarterbacks, didn't sack the quarterback 8 times. They didn't make a horrendous 4th and 10 call with 10 minutes left in the game, and you rush a play that it was the most ridiculous thing I've ever. That's the worst call I've seen in a long time, because you call timeout, at least call timeout and decide you get the right play off and you get your quarterback sacked. That was as big. All of those things were as big for Houston losing as those 2 calls, right?
But Keith, I will say. It didn't help. I agree with you about the game. Yes, you should win the game by how you play on the field, but it did help the spread, including that phantom 2-point safety at the end of the game.
Well, that's a smart call. That's a very smart call. I said to my wife, he's going to run out of the end zone here. But it was it's the only play you can make there, because if you get it blocked for a touchdown, that's the worst thing you can do. You run out and you get a free kick with no pressure, no anything. And it's no difference in the game. It makes a difference in the spread. Teams don't care about the spread. Teams don't care about the spread. That's a smart play to run.
I disagree with that 100%. I disagree with that 100%. You got first down.
Well, the game was almost over, though.
First down and 10.
They were up by 11 points. I'm sorry. What was it?
There was
16 seconds left. A blocked kick in that spot with a touchdown or a field goal even gives them a chance to recover an onside kick and win the game. You take that. I'm not even talking. Safety.
I'm not even talking about the last play, which was dumb to me too. I'm talking about you got the ball first and 10. First and 10 with 1:43 left. Why aren't you running Kareem Hunt? Why aren't you trying to pick up a first down?
That's two different topics, right? I'm talking about the 4th and 10 play, right? It's stupid. The 3 plays before that were not good. I agree with that 100%. You've got to try to get a first down and end the game. They threw the ball for those plays, which was kind of silly as well, and stopped the clock. I didn't understand that, or at least something somebody's going to catch. But it's two totally different things, what they did the first 3 downs and what they did on 4th down. That's a smart play. Any coach who doesn't make that play is silly and not making the right call. Now, back to referees real quick. Both things can be true. We can get bad refereeing, which we are, and I agree with it. And maybe it's good teams get calls. That's been throughout the history of the NFL. Good teams get calls. But there's a difference between bad refereeing, and I've got to look on social media and see all day long that they're fixing games for the Chiefs. I mean, that's nonsense. Nobody's fixing games for the Chiefs. That's just stupid and nonsensical.
What I will say, Keith, I'm not saying the game was fixed, but the bad calls was a 10-point swing. This game was close. That was a 10-point swing with those bad calls.
Right.
Those drives where the bad calls happened, 10 points occurred.
100%. I agree. It helped the Chiefs. I'm telling you, there's no script saying here's what we got to do to keep the Chiefs' drives going.
I agree. I'm not even barking up that tree. Not at all.
I will say Patrick Mahomes now is doing a very good job of playing into this, which I don't
he's
like
acting for sure.
That one. He took a flop on another play trying to get a call on the sideline, which was just kind of ridiculous.
The flop.
He didn't get the.
It was a major flop.
Yeah, that was awful. The other ones were bad.
I have never heard roughing the running back. When Patrick Mahomes takes the ball and starts running with the ball around behind his lineman, he is now a running back. He's no longer a quarterback, and you can hit him any way you want. That's the way it is. If you're a running back, you can get hit in the head. That's the way it is. I
got to rebut with Carlos here. You missed 6 points, fine, but don't let the refs be involved to swing points, Carlos.
I agree. But, there's been controversial calls throughout the history of the NFL. Now they're just focused on one team because we don't want them to win, number one. Again, they were bad calls. And for the quarterbacks, that running around part, we talked about this, I think, a few weeks ago. There's a lot of these quarterbacks that are running around faking slides. You can't do that and try to, fool the defense, and then you call a penalty on the defense when they slide late. There's no way that should have been called, even if the guy hit him, which they never even hit him. They hit each other. They barely touched him. That's a bad call. I'm not going to argue that point. My only point is it's not because we want the Chiefs to win. NFL doesn't care.
Let's get back to that 1:43 where they could have ran the ball with Kareem Hunt, who was running the ball really well in the fourth quarter, too. The Chiefs were moving the ball. And now, how can we say Vegas is not involved when it comes to the point spread? With the people that locked in at 9 points, it's a push. And to me, now, Keith, I'm just saying, I mean, it's too much of a coincidence. I mean, it's right at the push. So whoever bet the 9 point spread, whether it was the Chiefs or whether it was Houston,
I bet them 8.5. So the spreads are all over the place. So some people you're saying, so the fix is in, you're saying, but the line, not everybody had it 9 or 9.5. I had it 8.5.
I agree, Keith. But I'm saying you locked it in. It changed to 8.5 the next day because 9 was a spread until the day of the game. So I'm just saying. I know people wait for it. Sometimes it works for you. Sometimes it don't. I'm just saying, Keith, that it just with ESPN bet and all these betting sites going up now, people are going to question it. And we're right.
That part's okay because you're right. The NFL has opened up this question to themselves by getting involved with gambling sites. The question comes up because of it. As somebody, I do my fair share of wagering. I'm not, going there and betting hundreds of thousands of dollars, but I wouldn't bet a single game if I thought there was a fix in at all. I would never put any money on a game I thought was fixed. I don't go bet professional wrestling. I mean, if I thought the outcome was already determined, I would not do that. And so again, I understand why it looks funny, especially when the NFL's in bed with gamblers.
Even Troy Aikman said something, and he said Al Michaels is going to be happy. He's going to be watching that. Well, clearly he made the bet for.
On the safety, I think Joe Buck said a lot of people were just either happy or sad right now. So.
That's true. All I know is I hope I'm rooting against Kansas City next week. I
will say this. Again, I know why the questions come up. He didn't run out of bounds and take a safety because of the spread, because that's the right thing to do in that game situation. That's why he did it.
I think there's two things, Keith, there. One, as I said, they should have run Kareem Hunt. Two, they could have punted the ball. Nobody was back there. They would have had what left? About 40 seconds? So say Texas gets the ball and scores a touchdown. The Chiefs still win.
Not as you get the kick blocked and it's a touchdown and they still got 16 seconds to onside kick and kick a field goal.
That's not gonna work.
Not gonna work. Never happened.
That percentage of that is so low, Keith. You know I'm right. That percentage
but the percentage, there is a percentage. The play they ran took that out of play altogether. It's still a 2-score game. They get the kick with no pressure at all. That's the right play. That'll always be the right play.
I don't know. Carlos really plays that. He plays fantasy. So there you go.
No, I find myself agreeing with Carlos because again, he talked about the Houston just lost a lot of opportunity for points on their own.
Oh, I don't disagree. I think the Chiefs. I think Houston's defense played great. I think the Chiefs' defense played great. Just a matter of
amazing in the second half, especially in that fourth quarter. The Steve Spagnuolo did a great job. Great job.
Absolutely. The block field goal, it's just like bad luck. I mean, I saw the guy that came free to block that field goal. It's like, what is going on here? 3 guys were all over that.
The Chiefs have listen. I mean, the Chiefs are a good team, but they're losing next week. So, not enough time to bother Keith about Washington and Detroit, but I want your picks for today, Keith. What do you got for today?
I have Buffalo. I think it's pick 'em in ours. I think I'm getting one in my pick today. And I have the Eagles, whatever they are, 5.5 or 6.5. I don't remember which they were. 5.5.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. One quick thing. I know I got to go, but Lions in Washington. Outside of the game itself, which it was kind of shocking that the Lions were as inept as they were on defense. This hurts Aaron Glenn a lot and helps Kingsbury on the other side of the football. Kingsbury called a great game yesterday. Part of that's the Lions' lack of defense, I think, but still, this Washington team's fun to watch. I did not think they would win. I thought that Lions would pull away at the end, and they kept getting back in, but every time they got back in the game, they gave up another big touchdown quickly. And this,
I mean, you listen. You can blame Detroit's defense, but Goff plays small and big games. Man, 4 different turnovers. You can't win games throwing 3 interceptions and a fumble. You can't do that. You can't beat the
Washington defense too. I mean, they gave up 28 points, which isn't a little bit, but still, that's a prolific offense that they stopped in big spots all night long, and defense still matters.
There's a reason the Rams traded him for Matthew Stafford, and they gave up a whole crap load of riches because with those draft picks they gave up, they got some nice guys, including Jahmyr Gibbs. But
they did.
Turned his career around in the regular season and played well for part of the postseason last year. But this is 2 years in a row in big playoff games where he's really cost them big time. Fourth quarter against the 49ers last year when they had a chance to go to Super Bowl, and now early in the playoffs. So you kind of revert to who you are. We saw with Sam Darnold. We've seen it with Goff. At some point, you revert to who you are.
That powerful NFC North is now out of the playoffs. So there you go.
Yeah.
There.
Amazing.
Who's to say, man? You'd never know, man. Keith, thanks for stopping in. Keith is going over to his show. Love having you every Sunday and Friday, Keith. Have a great day, my friend.
Enjoy the
Have a
games,
good one,
guys.
Keith.
Bye-bye.
Definitely will. And Keith leaves, we bring in Jack Hirsch, my partner in crime in the Mac and Jack Sports Show. And, of course, he's on Glove Fist, which they're going to change their name to some football name now because they talk about football more than boxing on Glove Fist now.
Well, but why not? I mean, boxing is secondary to football. And when everyone woke up this morning, you know what was on their mind? First thing, tomorrow night's big college game, Notre Dame and Ohio State. That's all sports fans were really thinking about, tomorrow night's game. And, and this show reflects that, it gets covered thoroughly. And I'm picking Ohio State, which is a worthless pick, by the way, because my predicting this year has been terrible. I mean, I could be criticized. I mean, I shouldn't even be asked who I pick in the NFL or college or whatever. I don't know what I'm talking about this year. It's just one of those years.
I got it.
Yeah,
I got
Jack.
to ask Carlos. I'm sorry. I got to ask Carlos to name 10 better quarterbacks than golf. I mean, I'm not going to say that
In the
he's not in
playoffs?
the top 10.
In the playoffs, I don't know. I mean, there might be 10 quarterbacks that listen. Goff went to a Super Bowl, and the Patriots defense pretty much shut him out. Now he goes and listen. Detroit was a favorite all year going to Super Bowl. This team with all the weapons Goff has, and he couldn't get it done. Throws 3 interceptions, turns the ball over on a fumble. I ain't gonna blame him for that because he got sacked, and that's sometimes that just happens. But those 3 interceptions, one for a touchdown, a pick 6. I mean, you can't do that. You can't do that in the playoffs, James. So I
agree.
I would maybe say he's 10, maybe he's 12. I mean, I don't know. I think Jaden Daniels right now is a better quarterback than.
Of course, as of right now, he's protecting the ball. He's throwing for 567 yards, 4 touchdowns, and no interceptions in the game.
Yeah,
he's been the guy.
All right, so
he's a good quarterback, but put in perspective who you would rather have next season. I mean, Goff or C.J. Stroud, for example. I'd rather have C.J. Stroud. I mean, Goff is a good, competent quarterback, and I think, Mac, maybe you were even overrating him a little bit by thinking, he could be 10 or 12. He's like a middle-of-the-pack quarterback, but then you wonder some of these other quarterbacks, like Justin Herbert, are we rating him highly based on his past reputation? Because he was awful, in his playoff loss.
Yeah, it's true. I never had Jason Herbert in my top 10 anyway, but I mean, a long time ago, yeah, but he hasn't played well enough to be in the top 10. I think Goff is a Dak Prescott, is a Kirk Cousins, right? Good manager, maybe, but in a big game, I mean, oh Lord, I mean, I said I thought Washington could upset them. I said that before the game started, and Washington's defense was underrated. I still think they're underrated. And their running game is, I mean, Washington is a strong team all the way around. They're not just offense. They got a good defense. They got good special teams, as they showed against Detroit. Then I said, now the NFC North, they're all out. Interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah, you make a great point, Matt. The most powerful division in football, and they're all out. I mean, who would have? I mean, the Packers, okay, that wasn't unexpected, even though I had picked them to upset the Eagles. Most people, picked the Eagles to win that game. But the Vikings, we thought the Vikings might lose to the Rams. I mean, that was a, I don't want to say a 50-50 game. The Vikings were maybe just a slight favorite, no more than that. But this Lion game, this is one of the biggest shockers I've ever seen in my life, in the NFL playoffs. An absolute shocker to me. And maybe we should have saw the red flags, perhaps, in the sense all the Lion injuries on defense, we discounted it. And maybe something I said, I just want to run by both you guys. And Mac, I know you say teams have to get up for every game, and they should, but they're human. The Lions had that very big game against the Vikings. All their emotions went into it. And I know they had a bye. It was a couple of weeks ago. But you're not going to tell me they're like psyched to play the Washington Commanders at home. It was one of those games, let's get this out of the way. and then we'll be psyched for the Philadelphia Eagles. And this was a true trap game in the playoffs. James, is there such a thing as a trap game in the playoffs? That's a good question. Is there?
Yes, it can be. I mean, that's funny that you're saying this. I was watching this game last night, and I was thinking, I said, did the Lions just overlook Washington and looking forward to playing either Philadelphia or the Rams? I'm thinking, man, maybe they didn't. But again, a lot of things, like you said, could have occurred. Not having all your key players on defense. But I think to me, the biggest thing is when we talk about, you brought up 3 teams from the NFC North making the playoffs. 2 of the games were lost by their quarterback play. 2 of the games were lost by their quarterback play, both in Minnesota and both in the Lions, because there's no way you have that kind of talent on the offense and lose those games the way you did. I mean, they didn't just lose them like close games. They got beat. They were handed. I mean, Jared Goff, and Sam Darnold did not come to play. They didn't show up.
And I'm thinking, guys, for the first time this year, coordinators looking for head coaching jobs, because there seems to be more head coaching jobs available this year than any other year. And I'm thinking in terms as a Jet fan, who I want my next head coach to be. And I'm watching these playoffs, and I'm thinking, Brian Flores has baggage. He got out coached against the Rams. And I'm thinking Aaron Glenn is my front runner. After watching last night's game, like it's whoa, I'm not jumping on Aaron Glenn so quickly. I might go a conservative route like Mike McCarthy and let him reunite with Aaron Rodgers sooner than Aaron Glenn. But Aaron Glenn would have been my guy going into the game. He may have lost himself the head coaching job. He may have lost more than anyone else yesterday, individually, Aaron Glenn, because I'm not so certain he gets a head coaching job now.
No, if he goes out there, he'll get one. There's no doubt about it. And
Yeah,
Almighty,
I think so too.
if this was pre-recorded, your comments would not be up on the screen. So it is live. Yes, it is. So anyway, listen, I don't know if Washington was. Who did Washington play last week and beat?
Tampa Bay.
Washington, Tampa Bay.
So I think Tampa Bay gave Detroit a hell of a game, or they beat them when they played them. I know it was a close game. I know that. Why would you be, if you want to go play in a championship, why are you looking past Washington? That doesn't make sense to me. I think they just got beat. I just think they got beat. They're the better team on paper. Washington was a better team on the field.
Guys, there's a certain complacency. I'm watching the game yesterday, and I'm not a Lions fan. I mean, I kind of, in a way, was rooting for the Lions because I know how much it means to the city of Detroit. They were more invested, I think, than any other NFL city this year to get to the Super Bowl. I'm thinking all along they're going to win the game until they're down 10 points late in the game. Then I start getting nervous for them. I keep thinking they're going to turn a switch, on. And as the game's going on, they just can't stop the Washington offense. Washington keeps hitting big plays. No one is stepping up. And I wasn't nervous that they were going to lose. Like I said, until they're down 10 points late, I thought they were going to find a way to win all along.
And the reason for that, the reason for that is Jaden Daniels. The reason for that is Jaden Daniels. Number 2 pick overall, probably should have been number 1. Look, he landed in the place where he's supposed to land. This team doesn't look, if you look at them on paper and you look at them through the optics, they do not look like a team that's supposed to beat Detroit. They don't look like a team that's supposed to beat the Philadelphia Eagles, but yet they're in position to do that, or the Rams. Jaden Daniels is the definition of poise. I've been hearing this word run around. I heard it when he was at LSU. I've been hearing it all through the season, watching him play because I'm a fan of LSU, so I've been watching him play. I've been hearing it here, and he's just been carving up defenses, man. Both in the air with his arm and with his legs. And I just think that he's the reason that there's a possibility that they're going to get to the Super Bowl. I mean, that's just where I'm thinking, like, man, you're playing this good. You beat the number 1 seed, and you did it convincingly. It's not like you just scraped by. They beat them 45-31 by 2 touchdowns. And here's another fun fact, though. Jaden Daniels joined an interesting club. He joins a club of 5 rookies that have played and made their conference championship, but they went 0-5. So my question is, does he win a championship? Does he get to the Super Bowl? Does he buck that trend?
We just had someone put up a comment which is thought-provoking. I mean, we'll probably say, no, that's not the case. The 2 coordinators too busy focusing on a head coaching jobs than their upcoming game. Could that have affected the Lions just a little bit? I'm against these coaching interviews until the Super Bowl's over. I think it is somewhat of a distraction. It's human nature, guys. You got to prepare for these interviews. You don't just show up and interview. You're not interviewing for a job. No offense here, guys, to all of us on the Mac and Jack show, to join our panel where you could show up, joke around, show a good personality. You've got to be so meticulous for these interviews with your plan. And you have so much anxiety going into these interviews. And you got a game plan and get your troops ready for the game. I'm not saying it did have an effect, but certainly it has to be a little bit of a distraction. It just has to be for Aaron Glenn and Ben Johnson with the Lions. I mean, to my knowledge, no one on the Washington staff was interviewing for one of these jobs, but all we hear is Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn where they're going to go. And when Aaron Glenn and Ben Johnson are sitting down having breakfast in the morning, what's on their mind? Partly the game coming up and partly the head coaching thing. I just don't like it. It's a distraction. I don't blame the coordinators. I blame the rules. No one should be allowed to interview anyone else for a head coaching job from the end of the regular season till the Super Bowl's over. The first day the Super Bowl's over, that's when they should first be allowed to make the calls.
I mean, there might be something to that if you remember, Bill Parcells goes to the Super Bowl with the Patriots, and he's talking to the Jets all week, and the Patriots end up losing the Super Bowl. So there could be something to it, Jack. I mean, you never know. You should be getting ready to go to the Super Bowl or trying to get to the Super Bowl, but it could have an effect. I want to get your thoughts on Kansas City and Texas. Mistakes by Houston, bad calls. There were a few bad calls against Houston, especially roughing the passer, and that, and as James said, it was a 10-point swing for Kansas City. And I don't understand the last time the Chiefs got the ball. What are your thoughts on that game, Jack?
If I told you before the game, guys, that the Texans would outgain the Chiefs by more than 100 yards and not turn the ball over, no turnovers, and they outgained them by more than 100 yards, you'd want to put your money on the Texans and go, wow, they're going to win this game. Yet you guys are right, especially you, Mac, where you're saying the Chiefs always find a way. They always find a way, and I keep thinking it's going to catch up to them, and it never does. But, Will Anderson was complaining after the game about the officiating. I don't like to hear complaints about the officiating, but even Troy Aikman, former Hall of Fame quarterback, when he starts complaining about the rules benefiting the quarterbacks, and he's shown all this discontent, enough is enough. What angered me yesterday the most was a play that wasn't called, where penalty wasn't called. Patrick Mahomes is running out of bounds on the sidelines. He stops a few inches before going out of bounds, trying to draw a roughing the passer. He wants to get shoved. There's got to be a deception rule, like a flag should have been thrown on Patrick Mahomes. He couldn't throw it on him, of course, because there's no rule. But there should be a rule, a deception rule. The official throws a flag on Patrick Mahomes for trying to incite a penalty. And another play, Patrick Mahomes is running with the ball. He's a live runner. He goes down. He hardly gets touched, and he gets flagged. And the 2 Texans plays, what are they supposed to do when they're running at top speed there? There's the man.
Listen, I agree with all that. And you know, there's something funny. Good morning, Pags. Glad to have you in this morning. You know, we're talking about right now the game of the Kansas City Chiefs and the Texans. Listen, I don't like blaming refs. They do have a part in the game, but listen, it's every week, Pags. Every week something comes up where all of a sudden, you know, the Chiefs get the benefit of a call that doesn't. Nothing happened.
They have to come up. They have to come up with the diving penalty. That's really what this becomes. He is an expert at embellishing. Very good at embellishing, and anything that's very close, he's going to look and be like, "What? I am that guy," and they're going to give it to him. He is now Michael Jordan. He is now, that guy who is able to say, "Hey," and get the flag. So ultimately, that the play he's talking about, I 100% agree, Jack. And how often does that happen? But like, they definitely need to do a diving rule, because he literally embellished that, and it was a legal hit. It was a legal shove because he stayed in bounds. Yeah. And the ref even just said, no way are we going to give that to you. But realistically, I yelled it then that should be a 10-yard penalty for diving. He dove to try to act like he should try to get the penalty. And they stopped this in hockey by making the diving penalty a rule. You know, so you can't just
Well, the NBA put the flop rule in the NBA. You know, it's about time we put it in football.
Yes, and I think that's really what this is all about. He is that first penalty where it was close to the head. Obviously, the refs couldn't, turn it because he did touch the helmet a little bit. But that being said, it was the, oh my God, my back, my head it's so, he hit me so hard, and the flag immediately came out, and that's what it was. It had nothing to do. It's a pansy football play is what it is. It's a pansy football play. And if I was a defenseman, if you're going to play that way, I'm going to start chopping at your knees. Like, that's what's going to start happening very soon. They're doing too much for him, and it's going to start to reverb back to, hey, we're going to police ourselves then. You're going to have a hard time. We're going to start going after those ankles. We're going to start going after your knees. And then you'll see how much you're going to be able to flop. And that's it's ultimately, if the refs aren't going to control the game, the players are.
Good morning, Sonia. Glad to have you come in today.
Hi, good morning, guys.
It sounds like you're in your car.
Yeah, is there background noise? Should I switch the microphone?
Nah, you're good. It's not that bad.
No, it's fine for now. I mean, yeah. Peg, let me see. Pegs, I got a question for you. The final minute 43, the Chiefs have the ball, and Patrick Mahomes takes the ball. He backs up a few steps, takes a knee a couple times. Why aren't they running Kareem Hunt and trying to pick up a first down? Kareem Hunt is running all over the place in the second half. If they get a first down, the game is pretty much over. Why are you playing games and then running out of bounds?
Why risk that? Ultimately, the game's over. You're trying not to punt the ball away in any legal sense, like real sense. I don't mind doing that. Hey, it saved me and James from getting a loss there. I was happy about it.
It saved everybody. Everybody got a push.
So, but realistically, I don't see anything wrong with that. Like you said, you don't know what's going to happen. Yeah, they were running all over that defense. It was, like I said, they didn't have enough to kind of stop them. It's like every time there was a situation that they could get off the field, something happened that they couldn't get off the field. And that's really what it was. It had nothing to do with the end of the game. It had more to do with during that game. It's just like, okay, you got to get off the field. Oh, here's a bad call penalty, or here's another penalty, and here's another penalty. And just so many different mistakes as they started to get tired. And that's really what it came down to.
So I want to get you and Sonia's opinion on the second game. As Washington, they didn't care what anybody said in the press. They didn't care what the odds were. They didn't care about nothing. They said, we're coming here to win. They did. Daniels has a great game. They ran the ball well. The defense played great. Goff, three interceptions, Pags. You can't win in the playoff games against these teams that are the best of the best right now and turn the ball over 3 times.
Absolutely not. You are 100% correct. And ultimately it was, you could see a little bit of rust on Detroit. You could see a little bit of weariness on this team. Like it was, they started to get exposed and they couldn't stop anything. The defense started to get exposed. They started that what was working against Minnesota didn't work against Washington. They were able to win the battle of the offensive line. That was where this game was won and lost. The battle of the offensive line. Can't even say, I guess you could say the defense, the trenches. The trenches is what won this game for Washington, even though it was a barrage of points. I've never seen a pro football game have an over-under of 65, and they smoked it. You know what I mean? That was smoked almost in the first half. So I think that was where this was won, and Detroit just did not have the figures on the defensive side.
I agree. Jack says it might have hurt the defensive coordinator's job next year. Maybe he doesn't get a head coach job because of this.
Well, I got to say that. I'll wait till we get on the Eagle game to say what I have to say to Pax. I kind of like, I always love to kind of have a little fun with Pax, but he's
gonna hold off for it. I'll be honest.
Pax off.
The defensive coordinator of Detroit, I don't think that it'll affect him. He had 8 of his starting defensemen out, and he was able to win 15 games. I don't care what anybody says. That was a minor miracle for him to do what he did with this defense. They just ran against a really hot, very offensive, prolific team.
Pax, put yourself in my spot if you're a Jets fan and you want Aaron Glenn to be a head coach and you see last night's game. It's hard not to lose a little enthusiasm. You saw Aaron Glenn come out at the beginning of the second half. He was pumped at the beginning of the second half. Okay, bad half, we're going to get it together. We're going to show up. They never showed up at any point of defense. And I know we could keep pointing to injuries. Everyone has injuries. I mean, maybe it was a little worse for the Lions, but their defense got shredded yesterday.
Yeah, but also, I mean, how bad is it that every time you seem to get off the field, finally, whether you let up the touchdown or you finally stopped them to a field goal and then an interception? And
but the tackling was bad. The tackling wasn't good.
You're right, because these guys are pulled off of the trash heap. I think they have 22 total injuries on that defensive side. I mean, eventually it's going to catch up with you. And this is the divisional playoffs. This isn't a regular season game.
No. 2 weeks ago, look what their defense did against the Vikings.
Again, defensive line. That was the defensive line. That was the trench. That was another trenches game, and the offensive line of the Vikings did not show up. And you saw that again the following week. Saw it exactly the same. Listen, Washington does not have this tremendous defensive line. They're just okay, maybe good, but nothing that makes somebody hurry, any quarterback hurry 17 times. He hurried 17 times, got sacked 9 times. Same thing with Detroit. Again, that offensive line just was letting Goff get hit, and he couldn't get rid of the ball fast enough. They were able to make some plays, but ultimately, anytime Goff was rushed, there wound up being another interception. Then the defense has got to go back out there on the field again. And I think that they got disheartened after a little bit.
Yeah, Goff had a terrible game. He doesn't play big in big games. He just had a terrible game. Before I go to commercials here, Pags, I want, and Sonia too, I want your picks on Notre Dame versus Ohio State. Who do you got, Pags?
I hate both of these teams. I am not a fan of either team whatsoever. However, if I am going to side with anybody, I'm going to side with Ohio State. I think that they roll this game. I think this game is going to be more like, when Georgia played for the national championship a few years ago and they rolled all over them, like last year when Washington just couldn't keep up. I think that, Notre Dame's going to score some points, but I think Ohio State is going to expose this defense and they're going to wind up putting like a 40 spot. It's going to be like 40-18.
Sonia, who you got in the national championship? Sonia, who you got?
I just really think it's kind of, echo what Pags is saying. I feel like Notre Dame got there, not necessarily on sheer luck, but not for the greatest talent either. And so it's going to be, in my opinion, a closer game, not super close, but closer than what Pags said. But they have got to win this game to stay in Ohio. And with that being said, this is his last ditch effort. So, the verdict side, I got Ohio State.
We got Ohio State. Pags, are you going to be able to stick with us through the commercials to give your picks after, or you want to give your picks now?
No, I'll stay with you for a few minutes. So I got to about 10 after 9.
All right.
I just want Pags, before he gets off, Max, to later comment on Jared Verse going after the Eagles fans. I'd just like to hear him make a comment before he leaves.
We'll be right back after these commercials with our picks, folks. So stick.
Introducing National Streaming Sports, live and on-demand sports talk programming that you can access 24/7. For the premier sports talk experience, tap into our Roku channel. Start your mornings with Mac and Jack covering all the weekend sports action. Then pour a cup and enjoy all the sports you can drink on the Coffee and Sports podcast. At midday, talk sports from east to west on the Coast to Coast podcast. Followed at night by some hot girl talk with Prim and Proper Sports featuring Sonia Pearson. Talk boxing on the Gloved Fist. Yankee fans tune in for Start Spreading the News. And there's more on the College Sports Huddle and Sports Scope with Robert Butler. There are 20 podcasts in all and 70 weekly shows giving us a 3.4-star viewer rating. To find us on Roku TV, search for National Streaming Sports on the Roku search bar. Click on the logo and you're in. National Streaming Sports, live and on-demand sports talk for America.
There seems to be hundreds of betting sites out there. Don't be fooled. Some sites are only legal in certain states. Some sites pay you in Bitcoin. Then you have to change it into dollars. One of the sites was even hacked. BetUS has been in business for over 30 years. My friend made a future bet, and by the end of the month has a 50% chance to make $17,000. You can bet on futures on anything. Who makes the Super Bowl? Who wins the Super Bowl with great odds? The National College Football Championship. The NBA games are up and going. And, of course, you can bet on who wins the NBA championship. The WNBA is up and playing, too. BetUS has all the casino games, too, if you like that. Just scan the code on the right-hand corner. Brings you to BetUS. NESSP.info also has.
Yo, you already know it's your boy LCF. I just tore it up for ZodiacTv. Shout out DJ Epps. Oh man, it was great, man. We did an interview. Then I hit the stage. The crowd was amazing. They gave me all their energy. I gave them that energy back. Linked up with some dope artists in the building. ZodiacTv, man. Hey, we gonna celebrate for the rest of the night, you know what I mean? With some Bel Air. Shout out my nigga Rose. Holla at your boy. I mean, boss shit, you already know. But we tore it up, man. Performance was amazing. The set was amazing. ZodiacTv, shout out y'all boys, man. Thank you for having me. You already know I'm gonna come back. Your boy finna come back. You know what I mean? Go to work, did it all for nothing. Make sure y'all go get that single, available on all platforms. Let's go.
My girl just told me that she pregnant, we expecting the shit. So I had to buckle down, accelerate, no slowing down. Some people, that's why.
Hello, this is Paul Semendinger, award-winning author and the host of the Dr. Sem Yankee Show and the Start Spreading the News podcast. And you are watching The Big Football Show, the very best football show in the entire world. And it's here on the Northeast Streaming Sports Network. Enjoy.
Dr. Paul, it is the best football show in the world. We do have don't forget, we do have Jack's Just Ask Jack's trivia coming up very shortly too. So Pags, before you take off, I definitely want to get your picks on tomorrow's games. Of course, you got today's game, sorry. Detroit at the Philadelphia Eagles.
LA Rams.
The Detroit is
sorry.
out.
See, Mac mailed it in beforehand. Mac was so sure the Lions would win. It was on his mind like everyone else is. He mailed it in, basically, like all of us. The Lions and Eagles in the NFC.
Yeah, hey, listen,
Championship
didn't I
game.
say that all year long?
Mets,
I mean, I said it 100% all year long that it was going to be the Eagles and the Lions, and it was going to be a tough game for the Eagles to win that. The Eagles are now super pumped, I got to imagine, to play this game, that they're going to have the NFC Championship game in Philadelphia. Obviously, you can't look ahead to Washington. You got to take care of business today, and I think that they smoke them. I think that this is going to be a three-score game. I have it 31-13.
Well, Jared Verse, I meant to talk to you.
You love 31-13.
That's what I have.
Pags is a big 31-13 guy. If you watch his videos, he predicts that number. I think it's 31 and 13 are reversed. I don't know, Pags. I don't know if they beat him by that much. If they beat him, go ahead, Jack. Sorry.
Yeah, I meant to speak to Pags. Jared Verse, the great Ram, defensive standout rookie. He makes a comment that basically, I'm paraphrasing, about Eagle fans being miserable. It's a bad, it's an unpleasant place to play, but he didn't mean it in a complimentary sense as far as the Eagle fans helping the Eagles. He just claimed it's just bad people, bad atmosphere. Shouldn't the coaches know to tell these players to shut their mouths? Nothing good comes of it. Now, how does the fans in Philadelphia respond to that? Does it mean anything? Is it going to pump the crowd up even more? What?
I don't know that it'll pump it up anymore. Like, we're going to be excited for this game anyways. You may hear some Jared chants like Darryl. Like, they're going to definitely ride him a little bit. God forbid he make a mistake. You know what I mean? It's going to be a big deal for him to kind of make sure that he has a good game today. Short of that, I don't know that it's going to make a difference. He's a rookie. He's a kid. Hey, listen, we already learned last year when we beat Kansas City in Kansas City, and they showed my face. They used my face for this again. So they used my face then when the NFL players voted and said that we are the most annoying fan base in the NFL. That's what the NFL players voted on. So this is nothing new to Philly fans. You know what I mean? Add what the guy did last week, which was ridiculous. You know what I mean? And now all of a sudden you've got a media story. So that's what it is. I kind of feel like that this was, a little bit of low-hanging fruit. The guy trying to pile on, maybe trying to take away some of the, limelight from the defense as a whole, because, I mean, that defense got smoked the last time the Eagles played them. And I kind of think it's going to happen again.
So it's a pick, but we picked it because when we locked in our bets, it was a pick between Baltimore and Buffalo. Who do you got, Pax?
I like Buffalo here. I think this is going to be probably one of the better games. I mean, not that the game yesterday wasn't good, but I think this is going to be a knockdown, like an old-time football game. that I think, like when you remember seeing Elway versus Kozar type of situation. I kind of feel this way with this game here. These are, I kind of think, the two best teams in the AFC going up against one another. And I know Kansas City has had a better record, but I still think these two teams, this is the AFC championship game. I think that whoever wins it's going to still have a hard place to play against the refs and the Kansas City fans. But I think that ultimately this game is going to determine who's going to go to the Super Bowl from the AFC. And I like the Bills.
I agree.
It's going to be last possession. It's going to be a last possession game to decide it. Unlike yesterday, you're going to laugh now. I was thinking during the Lion Commander game, I'm going to get to bed early. The game's going to be out of reach. The Lions will have a 3-touchdown lead at halftime. No need to stay up till the very end. But this game, Baltimore, Buffalo, I can't see either team winning by more than one possession.
Yeah, I kind of feel that this is going to be very tight. That you're going to see some good football being played. You know what I mean? I think that this is going to be who makes the mistake type of situation. And at that point, we'll have a better idea, because I think it's going to be a close game. I just think Buffalo pulls it out, that they are able to contain Lamar Jackson more than not. And with Flowers being out, I think that he's just a little bit hamstrung.
Okay. All right. We'll see. Jack's predicted it's going to be last score, so somebody's getting blown out, Pags. Just to let you know, that's the way Jack's been picking. So this game will not be close at all. It's going to be like 35. I
just want to say, let me throw a Hail Mary Pags way. The Eagles fans, so they have in the back of their mind, they want Kansas City in the Super Bowl to get revenge.
I don't think anybody's even looking that far ahead. I think everybody was looking towards Detroit first and foremost, and now they're looking to see. All right, now we got game 3 with Washington, and that's this is to show that the NFC East is the toughest division in all of football, and I think it's going to be a really, I think that's really the Super Bowl. I think that whoever wins that game in the NFC Championship game wins the Super Bowl. I think the Super Bowl is going to be a second thought. I don't think they care. I don't care. I don't care if we play the Chiefs. I don't care if we play the Bills. I don't care if we play the Ravens. Bring it on. I think we're the best team in the league. And I even know our offense was a little anemic last week. I don't see that this week. I think that things are going to be a lot better, and you're going to watch this defense. Championships are won on defense, and we've had the number one defense all season long, just about. And now I think it's time that's what's going to ride us to a Super Bowl.
I know, Mac, you as a Giants fan have a lot to look forward to.
We're getting ready for
the NFC East going forward.
I'm looking forward to asking you the trivia question. That's what I'm looking forward to, Jack, and that's what we're going to do right now. Just ask Jack, who holds the record for the longest interception in the playoffs? Jack, it's 2 people. Again, I give you a chance to get one of these 2 correct. So the trivia question again for Jack is who? Got to play the music, right? Who holds the record for the longest interception in the playoffs, Jack? And since we got no commercial to go to,
I mean, one player comes to mind, but I kind of recall him returning an interception back, long way, but I could be wrong. My memory could be failing me. So just one pops into my head, Charles Woodson.
No, that is incorrect.
Yeah.
It is not Charles
You
Woodson.
got me
Anybody else
there.
got a guess?
Well, first off, I want to make sure it's not Donde Barber, right?
No, it is not.
Okay.
Dante
All right.
Barber.
There was ones longer than that one. I thought Dawkins had like a 108-yard interception or something like that, but I might be off. It might not be Dawkins. It might be Lito Shepherd or something like that.
I have no clue.
It's,
James
remember,
Harrison?
this is not,
James
no, that was the
Harrison?
Super Bowl. Remember, it's not the Super Bowl. It's the
Playoffs,
playoffs.
yeah.
Remember that.
Well, then
Yeah.
Ed Reed, maybe?
Go ahead.
Ed Reed?
No.
No.
No. Sonia, you got a guess?
No, I don't have a guess.
How about give us the teams?
Okay, let me see. One
Maybe it's
was
Miami
Green Bay.
Dolphins.
The other one was Green Bay. The other was Buffalo.
Wait, are we talking about playoffs before the Super Bowl era as well?
No.
No, I think with Green Bay, the first person, oh my God, that comes up to my mind is like Al Harris.
Or Herb Adderley?
Yeah, that's a guess. That
Herb
was
Adderley,
Harris.
that's
Those
the
are
name of a great cornerback from the past.
was. All right, doesn't look like you guys are going to get it, so I'll give you the answer. Both for 101 yards, Green Bay's George Teague in 1994 and Tyron Johnson from Buffalo in 2001. So
I would
those
never
were
have
the,
gotten either one of those. So
No.
Yeah, same. I wouldn't either.
No, me either.
all right, guys. Everybody have a great day. Enjoy the football. I am off to go.
Good luck, Eagles.
Win a
I'm actually
game.
rooting for you guys. Yay.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, good luck, Pat.
Same.
Good luck.
Thanks, guys.
buddy.
And go
All right,
Birds.
we'll see you. Take care.
Yeah.
All right, enough of that. Get enough of these birds. Anyway, so we get to go with talk about our picks a little bit. We'll start with Jack, because Jack is on a streak right now. So we'll see what Jack picks first, and we'll all go the opposite.
Mac, the Houston-Kansas City game, if you took Houston, did we win yesterday or not?
Push. Both were pushes. Houston and Kansas City were both a push. Okay.
Okay, so I'm 4-3-1. I'm not that terrible in the playoffs. I'm mediocre, like during the regular season.
Yes, you are.
You're better than me. I was 0-3
I'm
last
not
week.
better than you. I'm better than no one. I mean, I hate to say it, myself and Sonia both trying to stay out of the cellar.
I'm
That's
not
right.
even
Stay out of
thinking
last
anymore.
place.
Mine is a mood issue because it's so far
Yeah.
down.
James didn't do too well either. So
Yeah, the
who you got?
playoffs. I'm the bottom. I'm at the bottom.
So Jack, who you got?
Well, you're talking about, I like Philadelphia. I think they'll manage to cover, pull away a little bit at the end. I think it'll be a highly competitive game. I won't go so far 31-13, but I think when all is said and done, the Eagles win this one by around 11 points or so on. And Buffalo against Baltimore, I've gone back and forth. It's nearly a coin flip. And I'm going to give it to Buffalo, home field advantage. But the big question, which quarterback's more likely to make a mistake? And people are assuming it's Lamar Jackson will be more likely to make a mistake than Josh Allen. But keep in mind, a year ago, Josh Allen was the number one mistake quarterback in the NFL. People forget that because he's cut down on mistakes this year. But in a big game, a big moment, you might go back to being what you were, even though he's a great quarterback. Josh Allen, I think a little more than Lamar Jackson tries to put the team on his shoulders, when push comes to shove. We saw C.J. Stroud do that yesterday. He got beat up. He would try to go off on these runs, and you can only do that to a point, So can the Bills contain Derrick Henry? Big question. I mean, that's the biggest question of all. If they can't, the Ravens will win. I have to believe they'll be able to control him somewhat to a degree, even though Henry should have a good statistical game, over 100 yards. They can't let Derrick Henry just run over him.
Okay, I'll tell you. My picks are. I'm taking Detroit. I think Detroit, another underrated defense, another underrated team. I know.
You mean the Rams? The Rams.
Why do I keep saying Detroit? It's got to be Matt Stafford. Matt Stafford. The Rams will beat.
You're
Will
thinking
beat the
Stafford was the Lions quarterback, so so easy to say Detroit.
yes for
but-
years. But
Yeah.
anyway, I listen. I think the Rams are underrated. They're not. The Eagles aren't going to run on them like they did last year. They're going to make. Hurts beat him, and I don't think he can. I'm going to go with Stafford and his receiving crew, his little running back there, and their underrated defense. I think this is an upset. I think you're going to see Detroit playing Washington in a championship. It would be great with me. I do like Baltimore just because of what Jack said. Can they stop Derrick Henry, especially in the fourth quarter? I don't think so. I don't think Buffalo has a great running defense. Got a good pass defense, but they really don't got a good running defense. And between Henry and Lamar Jackson, I think Baltimore runs all over them. Linda also has Detroit and the Baltimore Ravens. So Sonia, who do you have?
I am like so skeptical because we've been seeing so many upsets. I'm gonna be honest with you. I did have Washington, but I had them by the points only yesterday. But I was floored that they won the freaking game. And y'all know I've been like on the whole Lions thing the whole time. I thought it was gonna be a Lions and Eagles NFC championship game. Now I feel like we need to watch out for Washington. So, but today's game, I don't know if I necessarily see an upset unless we see an Eagles team that has done exactly what Detroit did, which is just like, hey, I heard you guys, I've been watching the show before I got on this morning, and I totally agree. I feel like Detroit just counted Washington out, like, oh, okay, they're just on the schedule. Let's just hurry and get to them. They were already beyond the game. And whenever you start getting beyond the game, you forget to play the game that's in front of you. So I think the Eagles are kind of in the same situation, Mac. I want to agree and say the Rams could pull an upset today. And if that's the case, I literally feel like Washington between those two with Jay Daniels. And we got to remember, Dan Quinn is not a first-time head coach in the Super Bowl. He's been there before. Right. He's played this game. And so with that being said, for today's game only, though, I just wanted to put my plug in for what you guys have talked about. I do see that the Eagles, that Pags will be crying off his makeup next week.
So you got the Eagles, but are they going to win by the spread? Sonia, is that what you're saying?
What's the spread again, Matt?
5.5.
5.5.
The Eagles by the spread, yes, but I think the Rams are going to win the game. Yeah, Rams are going to win the game though. Like it's going to probably be about maybe 2 touchdowns, so like 13, 14 points.
So you're saying the Rams are going to win?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, all right,
yeah.
All right. So you got the Rams. Okay,
yeah,
and then Baltimore and Buffalo, Sonia.
I think that this is Baltimore's year. They got some Lamar got an extra set of legs to help take some of that run game off of him. And if Derrick Henry can stay in the game and play all 4 quarters, without barring any injuries, or I don't know what else could happen, but just that part, I feel like this is going to be a close game. I feel like it's going to be a repeat of what we saw with the Lions and Washington. And it's going to come down, I think Jack said it earlier, to whoever has that ball last. So the Ravens.
Is Zay Flowers playing? He was listed as doubtful, but he hasn't been ruled out completely, and he could be a difference maker.
He was projected to come back after the postseason. I mean, after the regular season anyway. I almost feel like they've been holding him until this moment here, like when they had to actually play him. But I don't know if he's 100% clear. But let's be clear. Anybody that's been on the IR list at any time during this season is not 100% clear. But they may debut him. They've been, really banking on likely a lot. It's likely. I always like to say that. But likely has been like really, really the saving grace for them. But we'll have to, some of those teams don't let you know until closer to kickoff time. But I know he was projected to come back after the regular season.
The last I saw, Jackie, is doubtful. So there's no.
Oh,
I would
so
imagine.
doubtful.
I would imagine if he can play, he's going. I would imagine because this is playoff time. But I don't know. We'll see. James, who you got?
So I got the Eagles to win. The Rams and the points. I just think the game is going to be a lot closer than people think. I think both sides. The Rams coaching has been a lot better for me with Sean McVay. I mean, and Sirianni, I just don't know. I mean, they got all the studs on the team on the offensive line, the running back, the quarterback. The Rams got Matthew Stafford. They got Puka Nacua. They got Kyron Williams. It's going to be a close game. I think if that defense of the Eagles, if they shut down their run, it's really going to be on Matthew Stafford. But Matthew Stafford has a quick release. He has a very quick release, and he can keep them in the game. He can keep them in the game. But I think it's going to be close regarding those two. Baltimore, I think Baltimore is this. Baltimore, I picked Baltimore because I think this is their year. I think they're going to beat Buffalo. I think it'll be closer than people think. I mean, really close. Who keeps the ball, like Jack said, who has the ball last. But I think also it's going to be a matter of who turns the ball over less. Somebody's going to turn the ball over. And I think what you said earlier, Matt, between Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson, who's going to stop them in the fourth quarter? And I think if Derrick Henry gets 25 carries like he's been getting a game, they win the game.
Yeah, I would say that too. I mean, that's I believe that's also the case. I think Buffalo, Baltimore. I don't know how close it's going to be. We know Lamar Jackson has thrown some interceptions in the playoffs. We know that Josh Allen tries too hard sometimes. He throws interceptions. It's going to be interesting, and maybe turnovers do decide the game. We'll see. I mean, if they do find a way to stop Derrick Henry and keep Lamar Jackson in the pocket, that's the key. And Lamar Jackson has to beat him with an arm. Maybe it comes down to turnovers, like it normally does, right? I mean, most games you end up losing instead of being beat.
Well, you hear the cliche about special teams, and they really make a big difference. So you look at the game yesterday, Houston and Kansas City. On the opening kick, Kansas City takes it deep into Texan territory, and they get a field goal as a result of that. Then the Texans miss a very makeable field goal, a couple of them, and then they miss an extra point, just things like that. We keep talking about the quarterbacks as the difference makers. Let me throw this to you. Who do you trust more, Matthew Stafford or Jalen Hurts? And I would trust Matthew Stafford a little more, a tiny bit more if it came down to it in today's game. I mean, who's more likely to have a terrible game? You might say neither, but more likely, I think, would be Jalen Hurts. And the same thing, you look at Buffalo, Baltimore, who'd be more likely to have a really bad game all of a sudden? I think Lamar Jackson would be apt a little more to have a really, bad game. But then if that scenario played out, Jaden Daniels would be more likely to have a bad game than Matthew Stafford the following week if they should meet up in the playoffs. So there are these little intangibles. I know I'm getting ahead of myself here. All of them are top quarterbacks. But what happens before these playoffs and Super Bowl are over, one of the quarterbacks, I don't know which one it's going to be, is going to have a disappointing game.
Listen, I mean, you look at Philadelphia and the Rams, and not only Saquon Barkley, we're not talking about Hurts being able to run with the ball too. I'm a little worried about that because Hurts can definitely run with the ball when he has to. I don't know if they're going to design any plays for him or not. But I just think Detroit is, I don't know if you believe in destiny or not, but it seems to me there's one or two teams during the playoffs that somehow beats teams they shouldn't beat. And they're normally wild card teams, and normally teams you don't expect. And every year, something like that happens for the most part. There ain't too many times that you see the best team against the best team. It happens, but there are a lot of times you get the team that, like the Giants were, like I'm trying to think of the other wild card, Tampa Bay a long time ago. I mean, there are teams that all of a sudden they just put it together. And it seems to me that the Rams and the Redskins are doing that. And we'll see what happens. I mean, I could be wrong. We'll see what happens. So, anyway.
I mean, we've seen teams do what Washington has in the past. They go on a little bit of a run. They win a couple of playoff games, and then they kind of get their comeuppance at some point.
Yeah. Sometimes, and sometimes they take it all. I mean, it's played on the field. That's the great thing about football. I mean, you can talk.
How awesome would it be? How awesome would it be to see Washington come all the way up with a first-year quarterback? And I mean, Dan Quinn it's his first season with Washington, and his redemption actually as a head coach. To be honest, like everybody talks about how they failed 28-3 when he was in Atlanta. This is Dan Quinn's opportunity. I just thought about it, to be a redemptive head coach. He went to Dallas for a little bit, played DC. Now here he is, and to take a rookie quarterback at that, he's with a team. Washington was garbage. He's with a team that was horrible, but now they are the cream of the crop, and I'm rooting for them to meet up with Philadelphia. Actually, even though I got the Rams, I'm hoping that they meet up with Philadelphia to claim the NFC championship. That'd be even better, especially coming from the same conference. But like we think we were shocked last night with Detroit getting literally blown out. This wasn't, I mean, at some point they just hit the gas and just took off. Now it's like Jaden Daniels, everybody's like rooting for him. He's the new underdog because he's the rookie in this league of veteran quarterbacks. So, and for those Falcon fans that, you know, are trying to get rid of the 28-3 omen, they're like, you know what? Let's just, you know, hope that Dan is not that it was so bad. They want to just really continue to blame Kyle Shanahan's Shanahan curse, they call it.
Well, I mean, listen, I mean, good story if he did go to Super Bowl. Let's talk. Sonia brought up a coach. Let's talk about coaches. Where do you think they're going? Whose good team is going to get what coach and why? So, the New York Jets. I mean, who do you think, Jack? That's your team. Who do you think the Jets pick and why?
I kind of feel it's going to be Arthur Smith at this point. I mean, it's not a terrible hire. He had the 3 years at Atlanta. They went 7-10. But reportedly, they liked him there. He was stable, but they had to move on from him finally. He goes to Pittsburgh. For a while, he was doing okay as the coordinator, the offensive coordinator, and then it kind of hit a wall there. How many better hires are there? And logically speaking, Mike McCarthy, for example, you're reunited with Aaron Rodgers. That might be a nice fit, but Mike McCarthy, I liked Aaron Glenn. I liked Brian Flores. You kind of wonder whether their stock went down a little bit. But if I were the Jet, who's going to wind up there? I think it's going to be Arthur Smith, as opposed to who I want. That's
wow, really?
Yeah, because
I didn't even know he was
liked him a while ago. So, want to know the truth of the matter? What I would do if I were the owner of the Jets? If I were the owner, I'd call Robert Salah and I'd bring him back and say, Robert, let's forget about what happened before. Let's finish this job, okay? I fired you. On reflection, it wasn't a good move on my part. Let's bygones be bygones. And you want to know something? I think Robert Salah would come back.
I don't know if he'd come back or not. James, who will be if you're the Jets owner, who will be your first pick as a coach? Because they don't have a
It wouldn't be Arthur Smith. I mean, what is he doing in Atlanta? I mean,
that's not my pick. That's James. That's why I think they're going to hire. I want to make that clear. That's not my personal thing.
Oh, all right, gotcha. All right, so that's interesting. That's so inept to pick that guy. I mean, if I'm the Jets, I wouldn't go with a defensive guy because that didn't work out apparently with Aaron Rodgers. Is Aaron Rodgers still going to be the guy?
We'll see.
That's the big question.
Right. If he's still the quarterback, then I'm going to get somebody I'm going to get an offensive guy. Mike McCarthy probably would be the best option to me. I mean, they reunite there and they played before together, and they won a Super Bowl together. And so, I mean, out of all the picks that are out here, if I had to pick somebody, it's going to be an offensive guy because it seems like defense is taken care of. That's on that end, but offensively, they've just been inept. And I think I want to get that straight. I want somebody to run that offense properly. And the best guy for the job outside of Ben Johnson, to me, that's got skins on the wall as a head coach is Mike McCarthy.
Okay, I thought Aaron Rodgers was the offensive coordinator there. Sonia, who do you think would be the head coach?
Yeah, so for me, it's going to depend on if Rodgers is still there. Like,
well, that depends.
His name.
That depends. He said it depends on the GM or head coach whether he goes back or not. So.
Yeah, I know. So, but that on the flip side of that, it's no secret of the drama he's caused there. Who's going to want to even work with him with his personality? I mean,
what are you talking about, Sonia? You're creating a false narrative here. Come on.
No, I'm not. They're garbage. You're going to make me curse on a Sunday morning. They're garbage. And everybody freaking knows it. I can't stand Aaron Rodgers, and I'm actually sitting on my church parking lot. I can't stand him. Let me finish what I'm saying. I knew you were going to hurry up with the pom-poms. Aaron Rodgers is a pansy. He has corrupted that entire organization from the locker room to the water boys. And my theory is, people could say, okay, we'll get anybody in there. I was thinking maybe Ben Johnson, or Aaron Glenn, but who wants to go down there and be a part of something so toxic? Or to know that at any given moment, if Aaron Rodgers is mad because you didn't heat up his coffee, off with your head. Nobody wants to deal with that. And that's why McCarthy's not going to go back, because he got McCarthy fired. And on Aaron's birthday, I'm never going to forget that. It was Aaron's birthday. He got him fired. And everybody was like, this is his birthday. Oh, happy birthday to him. You don't just forget stuff like that. You may be cool with people, but you learn how to deal with them with a long-handled spoon. So McCarthy's not going to run his Polar Bear Express looking self back up there to New York to try to work with Aaron Rodgers. That being said, I guess y'all will deal with that pansy Arthur Smith, because he's another dominant personality, and he's just going to get up there. And if Aaron Rodgers is still there, Aaron will have him out in about 4 months as well. So now you can go ahead and careen in with your pom-poms and your cheerleaders, Jack, and I'll just take it on. Thanks for letting me finish.
So you're saying Arthur
I
Smith.
know who Sonia wants to be the next head coach, who she's endorsing, Ron Rivera.
No, I don't even wish that on Ron. Let me tell you something. I knew he was in the runnings. I purposely didn't mention him because I love Ron. I absolutely love him. I met him. He's a really cool, like how you see him is how he is. And Ron does not need that type of drama in his life. He has a great family, and Aaron gonna get his behind hurt. You do not mess with anybody whose last name is Rivera. Okay?
Okay. Listen, there's one coach I want you guys to consider too, because nobody's talking about him. And Washington's offensive coordinator, Kingsbury, was a head coach with the Cardinals. And if Washington keeps winning, he might become available pretty quick. So you just keep him in mind. Listen, I think Aaron Glenn goes there, former Jet. They already got, if Aaron Rodgers comes there, they already got their offensive coordinator. If they don't, they'll hire one. I can see Aaron Glenn being a former Jet going up there and trying to write the Jet ship. Go ahead.
Mac, you brought up a good point about Cliff Kingsbury, but do you really want to go snatch up an OC or a DC the first year that they made a change on their, with their outcome? Like, do you really want to just bank on them winning off of one season is what I'm saying. Give them a couple of seasons. Let's make sure it's not a fluke. Every clock is right, even though it's broken twice a day. So you got to make sure it's not that. Like,
well, he was the head coach of the Arizona Cardinals. It didn't quite work out.
Exactly. That's my point, Jack. So that's why I'm like, I wouldn't be so quick to suck him up from Washington because they're on a good run.
Well, I'm just saying, I mean, if Washington continues to improve and continues on, he's going to be mentioned. Trust me. Chicago Bears. Who's Jack, we'll start with you again. Who's the favorite? Who do you think ends up as the Chicago Bear head coach?
I think Mike McCarthy winds up there. Reportedly, they've given him the red carpet treatment. That's the best job of all, as far as I'm concerned. That's the team with the best upside going forward. I could see them being a Super Bowl contender in a couple of years. They got a lot of talent, and
I don't know about Super Bowl contender, but
getting it, Mike McCarthy there. There's a little bit of a movement for Brian Flores, but I think the most important thing is Caleb Williams' development, and Brian Flores, well, he might not hurt Caleb Williams. Let's be honest about it. His two quarterbacks in Miami, not just Tua, Ryan Fitzpatrick, who has a lot of credibility, he really ripped into Brian Flores recently, and this is way after the Tua thing. And so it's not Tua alone. It was the whole quarterback room. But Mike McCarthy would be the best fit. A nice conservative fit, been around, had success with, quarterbacks before.
James, let me ask you something. This question just pops in my head. Can you think of any quarterback coach just that got hired because he was a great quarterback coach, winning a Super Bowl besides Gruden?
Sean Payton.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's a wild card in this that no one mentions, guys. Josh McGowan, the quarterback coach of the Vikings. He's a former NFL quarterback himself. He's been around, good personality. If you have a young quarterback like a Caleb Williams, maybe Josh McGowan gets the job, to work with him. That's a wild card in all this.
So,
and don't
James, you took McCarthy.
Caleb Williams. He might turn out to be better than Jaden Daniels when all is said and done. Let's wait and see.
Maybe. Hey, James, you have McCarthy to the Jets, so who you got going to Chicago?
I don't know if he's in the lineup, but Ben Johnson would be my guy offensively, because I just think that if he can turn things around, you saw what he has done offensively in Detroit. I mean, they did one too many trick plays last night, like that bit in the butt. But definitely, I think he's shown that he's got skins on the wall as the offensive coordinator to be able to light up any defense in the league. So I think he could do things with Caleb Williams and that roster they have offensively. They probably just need to make a few changes on their offensive line. And that'd be my guy. If I had to choose somebody, it'd be Ben Johnson.
It's a good pick. Sonia, who you got going to Chicago?
I got McCarthy. I mean, he looks like a bear. Their mascot is the Bears. It's a perfect fit just from an optics standpoint. Like Jack said, they're giving him the red carpet treatment because he's a polar bear. So he fits in with the scheme. He's mild-mannered. That's another thing. He's mild-mannered, and it just feels like he's also had coaching experience with the NFC North. That's another good thing. The fact that he's familiar with, just everything that goes on up there. Some of the players that are still in the NFC North are there when he was there. And so I think that's a good fit all around. And I think he is going to be the one that ends up there.
I agree. I think McCarthy goes to Chicago. New Orleans, we're starting to slim down here a little bit. That's your team, James. So I'm going to let you go first. If you're the GM of New Orleans, who are you taking?
At this point, if all those guys are gone, and the few people that I have, they're looking at Joe Brady, they're looking at Glenn. Probably, to me, I want somebody that I would like an offensive coach, because that's what I was used to and seeing what Sean Payton was, and what he did for that team and pretty much that city. But if I'm a GM, I want some continuity. I want somebody who's familiar with the team, and if we talk to Aaron Glenn. And even in spite of what happened with, I agree with Pags. I think there was just too much to overcome defensively with the lack of players that they had on IR. I think that Aaron Glenn can come down there and create, because there seemed to be a lot of toxicity in the locker room and with amongst the players, with each other, people not siding with Derek Carr, some siding with the other quarterback, and then there's no coach there, of course, and they like Darren Rizzi. Darren Rizzi, he's a household name now, but he lost the last 4 games. he can only do so much with it. I'm going to pick Darren Rizzi. I like him as a special team. I like the excitement, but I want to go with somebody. I think that might have to be a winner. And I think Aaron Glenn would be that.
So Aaron Glenn. Sonia, you're in that division. If you were the New Orleans GM, who are you hiring?
I'm kind of still tossed up between Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn. I mean, their names keep coming up a lot. I'm going to kind of throw something out there that nobody really talks about. And this is some of the former players that have, really good play calling experience. Some of the quarterback reads were really good. Tony Romo's name came up a couple times for some other positions with some other teams because he's a good reader. I mean, maybe if you brought him in, not necessarily as a head coach, because that's kind of drastic off the rip, but maybe if he came in like as an OC and then you went ahead and got like Aaron Glenn, down there, I think that would be a good combination. The only thing I hate to say is it just feels like for the NFC South as a whole, even with Atlanta, there's just been a bit of a coaching carousel off and on for the last few seasons. I mean, every team, I don't even think there's a division other than the NFC South that has switched out coaches. Like, it's always a team in the South that's getting a new coach. Like, it's almost like a rotation. And I feel like that New Orleans needs to focus on somebody long term. They're kind of like in a stage like a bad breakup and you're looking for somebody to rebound, but you don't want to rebound. You want to go ahead and move on. And Sean Payton was the face and the franchise coach that they had, and he was there for the duration. And I think the biggest thing that New Orleans got to focus on, they're too busy trying to find a Sean Payton duel. They're trying to find a Sean Payton 2.0, and they've got to realize they cannot find that. They're going to have to move on and literally start afresh. And I think whoever it is, once they get that person and they realize we're not trying to mimic Sean Payton, we're trying to just get our coach, I think whoever it is going to be great. But they have to get beyond the, I'm trying to replace my girlfriend with the new girlfriend 2.0.
Well, Sonia, you got to give me a pick, not whoever it is.
Yeah, I just want to say one thing. Sonia.
I started off, I said Aaron Glenn.
Okay, Aaron
I'm sorry,
Glenn.
I was just trying to give you the reasoning behind it.
Okay, gotcha.
Sonia, Tony Romo's getting paid $18 million a year to be a broadcaster, work a couple of days a week for CBS and only part of the year. You think he's going to take $3 million a year, a $15 million a year cut to be a coordinator somewhere, be a consultant or whatever? It's not even a consideration. He has a sweetheart deal at major impact money. He's not going to, and he has no experience outside of being a quarterback with the rigors of coaching, the long hours, what it does to your life.
Yeah, the long hours, but I guess it depends on what tax bracket he's in. If he's going to try to cut his taxes, and his passion.
He's going to take a $15 million cut in base salary.
I don't know. The IRS has been kind of greedy these days, so they might be eating a lot of it up. I'm just saying, sometimes it's not about
maybe within you,
it's about where your passion is.
Might work out for him. I don't.
It's just
Listen, Sonia.
Passion is.
Sonia, don't listen to Pags. This is Pags. Pags on Coast to Coast and on your show. Tony Romo. It's gonna be Tony Romo. Ain't gonna be no coach. Tony Romo. Tony Romo's lucky to hold the. It's lucky to hold the ball on a field goal so they can make the field goal. Tony Romo ain't coaching nobody. Tony Romo, as Jack.
My show, and he literally said that, and I was like,
wow, I know. I saw it. I watch it. I watch you guys. I watch all the shows. Tony Romo is not a coach. First of all, Jack is right. First, he has to learn to coach, which I'm not saying he's not great calling reads and knows defenses, and he was a decent quarterback. He wasn't great. He was decent, but he's not good. No way is Tony Romo decide to coach. I mean, Bill Parcells would call him, yell at him if he even tried to do it. I mean, anyway.
Can I say something? You didn't ask me about the Saints job. James said something
wow. Please don't get Jack out.
James said something that was really thought-provoking in regard to the New Orleans Saints, which I didn't consider. It's a split locker room. It seems that I can't see a Ben Johnson going there. I think the best fit, James, would be someone who could be really tough and kind of nasty if need to be. Brian Flores, okay? A real disciplinarian, per se, who isn't scared to fire people, get on people, or whatever. And let Brian Flores revert back to his nastier self rather than be a kind and gentler Brian Flores. That's what the Saints might need. A no-nonsense guy coming in there who's a darn good coach as is.
Yeah.
Right. And let's not forget that with the Miami Dolphins, his first coaching job, he had that team playing over 500 in playoff position. Don't forget about that. I don't care if he was mean to Tua and what. Who cares? Grow up. I think Brian Flores has grown a lot as a coach too. He doesn't have to scream at anybody anymore. I think he's got a lot more experience. Great defensive coach. The Saints are known for their defense. They'd have to get a good offensive coordinator. If Tony Romo's available, there you go, James. You can have Tony Romo as your offensive coordinator. What do you think?
No. The reason I said it's not that Tony Romo would be crazy. Any experienced quarterback could potentially be a good coordinator if they really are into it and want to learn.
Yeah,
he's making $18 million a year as a broadcaster. That's the point I'm making.
Let's be honest.
I'm sorry I brought him up.
I don't expect Tony Romo to be anywhere near the Saints organization. That's interesting.
Can you imagine he's leaving CBS to go to the Saints as like, a coach? That would be big.
Listen, some people like Bill Belichick and
I blame Tag for starting his rumor.
Some people love to coach, and I think if Tony Romo really wanted to coach, when his playing days were over,
he'd take a pay cut. Yeah.
Right. Did you hear? And also one last thing on Tony Romo, kind of a little unrelated to this. A few weeks ago, Drew Bledsoe really criticized Tony Romo. They were on the Cowboys together, and he said when Tony Romo was the quarterback, he was like a know-it-all. He wouldn't even consult with the other quarterbacks. He was in his own world. And he said, unlike Tom Brady, who still speak to the other quarterbacks and try to get knowledge from them.
So let's get to Dallas. Let's get to Dallas. Everybody wants, for some reason, prime time to go to the Dallas Cowboys.
Oh my God!
I don't think that's happening. But, you never know. I mean, money talks, right? If they offer money, he can't refuse. Who knows? But there's a few other quarterbacks that are either been interviewed or in line to get an interview. To me, the two most interesting coaches that were mentioned was Salah, because I think it would be a fit because of his personality. And I think coming back from the Eagles to the Cowboys makes some sense. He's been there before. So, he knows what coaching in Dallas is about. So let's start with Sonia with this. Sonia, if you were the GM of Dallas, who are you picking as your coach? No, Sonia's froze. She's not sure. Sonia, you hear me?
Yes. Yeah, I'm sorry. My AirPod had died, but I got you. So for me, sorry about that, guys. For me, I would think Salah. I just feel like he still has a lot, of experience in him. As far as he's a calm-mannered, I think he could gain control of any situation that he's walking into. I know the argument has been made for more because of, the familiarity and stuff like that. But I just feel like Salah's not done coaching. I feel like he could bring a lot to the table if put into the right situation. I think Dallas is in a position that they would be a great receiving team for whatever he brings to the table. I think when he was in New York, once they brought in Aaron Rodgers, because look at the Jets were actually better before Aaron Rodgers. And I feel like once Aaron Rodgers was thrown in the mix, it just made it toxic. I'm rooting for Salah to be able to start over, to start fresh. No better place than Dallas. I think everybody would embrace him there. And I think he could get them past that 12-5 hump that they keep getting every season.
Jack, if you're Jerry Jones and you're sitting there and you want to get a coach that you feel you could work with that could be a winning coach, who would you take? Your microphone.
Sonia makes a lot of sense with what she said about Robert Salah. You actually would be a good fit for Jerry Jones's personality. I know I defend Jerry Jones a lot, but he does have a couple of flaws. He wants someone who's not going to be too confrontational, who will go along with the program. I mean, all GMs want that. He's the owner, but he's also the GM. Don't forget that. And he hasn't been a bad GM on balance. Even though they had a bad year last year, they were 12-5 3 years in a row before that. Not a bad GM job that he did before that. But Kellen Moore's the familiarity. So if he likes Kellen Moore and he feels that's a good fit, he's going to stick with the guy he's familiar with, Kellen Moore. So that's who I think is going to get the job. Robert Salah's a great choice for any organization because he'll get along with the GM. He won't rock the boat. He's a defensive mastermind. And keep this in mind, the San Francisco 49ers are not filling their defensive coordinator slot right now. They're waiting on Robert Salah. It's his job if he wants to come back as the Niner defensive coordinator, but they're waiting to see whether he becomes a head coach. That's how highly he's regarded.
James, you agree with those two?
I
or do you have
agree
another
with
one?
all three of you about Robert Salah. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Go ahead. You want to? Is that what you want to?
Just unless you had another coach in mind.
I'm saying I would agree with you that he would be a good fit for the team and not possible with the average GM. But Jerry Jones, however, is not the average GM. He is a guy that's kind of his face, his hand, everything in everything, and he wants to control the situation. And I don't know if a coach that's got a personality that's dominant on defense wants to be in that situation with this type of guy. I mean, you look, this Jerry world is really that. It's a circus. And so he's going to have somebody that he can control, probably somebody that he could, like control like a puppet. And so I think the Kellen Moore situation, what Jack said, probably would be the guy.
James, you're being a little harsh. He does not look at someone he could control like a puppet, someone who he knows he's going to not rock the boat too much, has enough of a personality. Look, Mike McCarthy knew his place, but Mike McCarthy wasn't going to get manipulated like a puppet, and if he felt that way, he was going to quit, which he actually did. He cut off negotiations, this year. And keep in mind, Jerry Jones was hired Bill Parcells, and Parcells was there for 4 years. And Parcells didn't quit because of Jerry Jones. He quit because it was time. He was tired after the 4 years. He's willing to make a bold move. Deion Sanders, I wonder, everyone, if he was willing to accept the money Jerry Jones was giving, would Jerry Jones actually go through with it and hire Deion Sanders? I don't think Deion Sanders is out of his mind. He should stay at Colorado. It's a great fit. Would he actually hire Deion?
Oh, yes. That's more popularity. That makes the worth of his team go up more. The publicity. I mean, he definitely goes after Deion. So
prime effect is real.
But
Deion respects Jerry Jones a lot. He would work along with him. Keep that in mind. And Jerry Jones, too, has been criticized. He hasn't hired a black head coach yet. Okay? And, that is a little bit criticism coming Jerry Jones's way in that regard.
There's a lot of teams that haven't hired a black. There's quite a few teams.
The Giants.
There's quite a few. Right. The Jets did. The Giants didn't. I'm not sure if Cleveland has. I mean, there's quite a few teams that haven't had a black head coach.
Cleveland has.
Hugh Jackson, yeah. Cleveland, yeah.
That's right, Hugh Jackson. Good point. Listen, I like Salah there. If I was to pick, if I'm the GM, I get Salah there. My defense needs to play a lot better. Guess what? Salah fixes that right away. Do not forget about Witten, the former tight end of the Dallas Cowboys. That is supposedly why McCarthy left. They wanted Witten to come on as a coach in training. McCarthy did not want to train Witten to take his job. That's one of the reasons why McCarthy left. So keep Witten in your mind, but I do like Salah. If I'm Jerry Jones, I take Salah. So anyway, last team I want to go over is the Jags. The Jaguars. Not too many coaches left on the
You
team.
forgot the Raiders. You forgot the Raiders too, Matt. Very quickly.
I don't know. Well, we'll go to Raiders if I got time. We're near the top of the show. I can only do 2 hours, or I can't rebroadcast. So the Jags. Start with James. If you're the Jags GM, all these guys are off the table. Who are you going to take?
I don't know if Joe Brady is available for. I mean, or he's going to hire with them. But I could use an offensive guy. I would like Joe Brady to come in.
Good pick
to work with Trevor Lawrence and that offense. And I don't know. They have talent there. They just seem they can't connect. I don't know what the situation is.
You know, that's a good pick. I think that's a real good pick. I really do. How about you, Sonia? All the coaches are off the table. James got Joe Brady. You can go with him, or you go with somebody else.
I was thinking like Pete Carroll. I mean, he's been floating around out there, and if he's not already taken by one of the other teams, Pete's, I think he's a perfect solution. He's a great person to continue developing a quarterback, and he's very offensive minded as well. Actually, both offensive and defensive, and so I feel like Pete Carroll could be a good fit down there.
It's not a bad idea. Get him plenty of chewing gum, and you'll be all set. That's part of the
precious breath in the league.
The contract. You got to have the gum. Jack, who do you think?
I maybe Josh McGowan, because I think your primary objective, you got to get Trevor Lawrence going and straighten out. But it didn't work with Doug Peterson. They may have hired him in part because of Trevor Lawrence, because he was a former quarterback and former head coach who supposedly was going to do a good job with Trevor Lawrence, and it didn't work out. But Josh McGowan, former quarterback guru, and maybe a lot of NFL experience. I take a chance with him, perhaps.
The Eagles, if they go far, not only might they lose their offensive coordinator, they might lose their defensive coordinator also. So here's a guy who was a head coach before, right? Why not the defensive coordinator of the Eagles? What is it, Vingo or Zingo or what the hell his name is? Pico, whatever his name is. But I could see the Eagles defensive coordinator going and coaching for the Jags. I could see that. So anyway.
And you mentioned with the Raiders, if there's time, I think Ben Johnson would be the great fit, because Tom Brady reportedly interviewed him. He loves him, and a hot coaching candidate, stable. That's the guy I think. Oh, that's the X factor. Is anyone interested in Rex Ryan?
I was gonna bring him up. He can go out there and be a thug with them Raiders, son. That's how he tries to come off when he was up there in New York.
Rex Ryan, the big blowhard. I don't know. I mean, I would love to see him in Dallas. That would be great. Jerry Jones and Rex Ryan would be a show. That would be great. What do you think, James? Who you got for the Raiders?
I didn't pick him. I know Jack picked him for another team, but I would pick Brian Flores out there. I think for a guy to get somebody organized and get a team organized, I'd pick him and take him there. I mean, I think he'd get that ship running the right way.
Good, but just very quickly, he had a relationship with Brady when Flores was at New England, so Brady's familiar. Brady can evaluate him based on that.
Sonia, who do you got going to the Raiders?
Flores.
You got Flores going there too?
That's the only, in my mind, that's the only natural choice. I mean, it's not a lot of people left out there and they firing coaches after a year and a half. So anybody that don't mind being there, but if they get Flores, he's going to be there for a few years, I think.
That could be true. I'm gonna go with Bill Belichick after all the rimrod, after everything that's been signed. He's staying there. He hasn't signed his contract with the Carolina yet, the University of North Carolina yet, and Brady's in his ear. And listen, he wants them 300 wins.
But they said Belichick's been out there recruiting high school talent for Chapel Hill, so he's been out there recruiting he's been active. I don't, wow.
I think he's staying in North Carolina.
He's not leaving this season. He's committed to being there.
He's going to the Raiders. He's going to Raiders. He's not only going to be the head coach, but the folks, we're out of time. We'll see you again on Monday Night Mac and Jack show. Of course, Sonia. NFL download. We're doing NFL download tonight, James.
For 2 games? You want to do that?
Did you hear me?
Yeah, sure. We can. Yeah.
All right.
We can.
I'll get in touch with you. How's that? We'll see. We'll map it out. All right.
Okay.
All right, folks. Have a great day. See you soon. And as always, if your team's playing, I